Hello, everyone, and welcome to one of our events for Hispanic Heritage Month 2020. Today, we're going to be talking where Afro-Latinx come from, the history. So I let you with Abelsain Gonzalez. He is the current president of the Hispanic Chiropractic Club, and he will be talking more about our Afro-Latinx history.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm so excited because this is one of the topics that I really enjoy talking about, and I really have a passion for it besides what is health, wellness. I think this will be the second topic that I really enjoy talking, researching, and getting to know what my roots and my heritage come from. So I'm really excited about what we're gonna be talking today. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen. You guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yes. Let me give a presentation. So how you guys can hear, English is my second language. So I'm gonna try to pronunciate the best I can, but if you guys don't understand a word I said, just keep it up with me. So keep it moving a little bit about myself, about my story. My name is Abelsain Gonzalez. I'm from Puerto Rico. Came here Life University last year. I'm in 7th quarter, born and raised in Puerto Rico. Fall in love with chiropractic, I would say a couple of months before coming here through the leadership weekend. I'm gonna be talking about situation, I would say an experience I had in leadership weekend that I'm gonna be a story that I wanna share with you guys. I need to say, obviously, that I'm not an expert when it comes to the whole history, but I was looking for a word, and this word right here, where it says epistemophile, is someone who is constantly searching about a topic. And I will consider myself that. I'm not an expert, but yes, I have read a lot of articles, documents, books that I'm gonna be sharing you at the end, resources for you guys that would like to know more about this topic. I would consider myself a Pan-Africanist. For those of you that don't know what that topic means, these are two things that describe what a Pan-Africanist is. A person that is looking for the unification of Africa as one nation, and a person that is looking for the unification of all African diaspora. And I really have a dear sense of love. Really looking forward to go one day soon to Africa, and I have contact with a friend that is from Kenya, and he constantly keep putting me talking to me about religion, all the culture when it comes to Africa, especially when it comes to the pre-colonial times, for me to understand more about where my ancestors were in that time, so that I can get to know myself a little bit more. Moving on. Before here, I want to share with you the story. So here it is. I was here in the leadership weekend 1.5 years ago, and the second day, there was a dynamic that we were doing, and we have to say something. I don't remember what it is, but that day, I said something. I don't know what it is, but obviously people notice my accent. So this female comes to me. She's an African American. She comes to me and said, "Where are you from?" She asked me, "Where are you from?" Where are you from? I say, "I'm from Puerto Rico." And she looked at me, and she made like 3 seconds silence. And after that, she looked at me and she said, "Oh, so you are not black then?" And that really caught my attention because, to be honest, besides chiropractic, I was very excited about coming to Atlanta because I know what Atlanta means when it comes to the civil rights movement. And I know all the history this city has when it comes to the civil rights movement. So I was very excited about it. MLK, go to the museum, all that stuff. So when she told me that, I was like, what is it about me that she made her think that I'm not black enough? This is not my first experience with this kind of situation, because back in 2013, I joined the Army, and in the Army, they used to tell me the same thing, but it was more of a kind of trying to bother me, making just having fun. But this female just said that, and she was really honest. Like I kind of saw her in her face, and she couldn't believe. The second thing is she couldn't believe I was married to a white woman. She said like, oh, so how can you two be married? And to be honest, that was very hard for me. Like as I tried to explain to her some of what I'm gonna explain to you guys here, but it's impossible. The same way it's impossible for me to tell you everything in these next 30 minutes. But I'm gonna share some of the most important aspects. I'm not gonna be spending too much time when it comes to dates, all that stuff. I'm gonna pronounce some important aspect of it. So I wanted to share that story for you guys. So at the end of this talk, I hope you guys understand better when it comes to the Afro-Latino and Afro-Hispanic, the difference when it comes to them versus African-American. Some of the topics we're going to be speaking today, different between Hispanic and Latinos. We're going to be talking about Hispaniola, that is Dominican Republic, Haiti, Brazil, Peru, Mexico, Puerto Rico, pre-colonial Black influence, similarities when it comes to African-American and Afro-Hispanic, Afro-Latino. And I will give my thoughts at the end. After that, we're gonna open the floor, have a nice conversation with the people that are in here, ask questions, and just have a fun time. The objective of the presentation is to understand the difference between slavery in Spanish and Portugal colonial slavery application and versus British colonies. That is very important. I hope at the end we get a better grasp of the difference. And have it, because there is a difference on there, and have a conversation about our similarity, difference, and understand each other. First of all, let's get this straight. Latino and Hispanic is not the same. When we say Hispanic comes from those places where their language comes from Spanish, from Spain. Here you can see it says, of relating to the people, speech, or culture of Spain, when it comes to the culture, speech of Spain. Then Latino is people that, a person who was born or live in South America, Central America, Mexico, or a person in the US whose family is originally from the South American, Central America, or Mexico. So to better understand this, here is a picture that describes it very, very fine. When you see here the blue square, Hispanic, you guys see all these places right here with Spain. But when we talk about Latino, because obviously Spain is not in Latin America, you see that Spain is not in the red square, but we add other places, like for example, that we're gonna be talking about, first flag right there is Brazil. That is not Hispanic because they speak Portuguese, but they are in Latin America, in South America in this case. This is a term that we use interchangeably, so we need to have that in mind. So before starting, I see some people here, so you can unmute yourself. I'm gonna be calling your names. Just, this is not wrong or right. It's just to see where you're gonna understand after we go through this. So here, this female right here, where is she from? I wanna hear Andrea. Tell me, where do you think this female is from?
It's hard.
I know.
She can be
That's the
from
point.
anywhere.
There you go.
I'm going with A. I'm going with A.
Okay, we have one A. We will want to jump in, just jump. There's no right or wrong. Well, there is wrong, but.
That was smart.
Okay, yeah, okay, so to keep moving, this is from Peru, C. I know, it's hard. Let's get it. Jump, anyone.
I'm going with D.
Yeah, I'm going with D.
B, Mexico.
Really?
Man.
Yes, sir. Last one.
Brazil.
Oh, Cuba.
Yeah. Cuba.
Yay!
You got one right. So you see how it's hard, right? It's hard. You know, it's a lot of similarities on this different picture right here. They come from different places. You see different, maybe tone of skin, maybe complexions, hairstyle. But if we go to pre-colonial Africa, we have this picture right here. All these people right here are all from Africa, different tribes. We have the Maasai tribe from Kenya. We have the Pygmy that were one of the tribes that went to Puerto Rico from Cameroon. We have the Nubian. And you see, even though they all come from the same continent in Africa, they have different complexion, skin color. So sometimes when we think about Black and we think about Africa, we have maybe this picture of just people that maybe my skin color like black, but no, we have different type of hair with different type of nose, and they are all African. So this is very important to understand that the variation, the complexities, we could see that even before colonial times. Moving on, let's start with the, oh, I'm sorry for that. Let's start here talking about a little bit of percentage. So they said that they don't really know, but from 10 to 15 million African were enslaved and were brought to the transatlantic ocean slave slavery. Out of those 15 million, if we use that number, it's not definite, but out of those, only 5% came to the US. So we're saying that 95% didn't go to the US. So they went to other places. Like, for example, 90% came to Latin America and the Caribbean. So that's a huge number. You think about it, we take the number of 15 million, even we take 12, that is the lowest number that I have seen. It's a lot of people that went to the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And we have 5% that didn't make it. Obviously, we know that on the journey, a lot of people died. There were others thrown over the board because they were sick, a lot of stuff going on. But this is very important for us to understand that there are a lot of African descendant people outside the US. The first place I wanted to talk about was the Hispaniola. For those of you that don't know where that is right here between Puerto Rico and Cuba. It's the combination of Dominican Republic and Haiti in the left, Dominican Republic in the right. But in that time, they called it Hispaniola. That's the first place where Christopher Columbus arrived. And there's some percentage. In 1960, the census in Dominican Republic, only 11% said that they were African descendant. But then, years later, 2015, when I got this information from, 90% felt they were African descendants. So in maybe 50 something years, this number was huge, a change. No, there was no influx of a lot of Black people around the world going to the Dominican Republic. So the question is why? Wait a minute. What happened that people first felt they were not African descendant and they didn't see themselves as African descendant, but now they're starting to acknowledge that culture. Approximately 10 million of Dominicans are considered African descendant. We see here their language: Spanish, English, Creole. Religion: Catholicism, Santeria, Voodoo. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow, when we're going to be talking about the culture. Today's more history, but tomorrow you guys want to be here because we're going to be diving into what is a religion, all that stuff, food, all that amazing stuff. So here we have, in 1492, Columbus landed in Dominican Republic and promptly claimed the island the Spanish crown. A year later, Santo Domingo had become the first European settlement in the New World, and the Spanish influence that still dominate had begun. In the early 1500s, 10 to 15,000 slaves were brought to the Hispaniola. And I want to talk to you guys why I chose to start with this place first. We're going to talk about that after this. We know that the indigenous people disappear because the hard labor, the diseases that the European brought with them, so they're exterminating. So Bartolomé de las Casas, he was a friar, he had this amazing idea, and he was very sad about what's going on with the indigenous people. So he said to the crown of Spain that they should stop bringing making indigenous people work that hard, all that stuff. And he came with this amazing idea to bring Africans. I don't know what, why, but he thought that Africans could do that job. So that's when they started bringing Africans. From the beginning of the slavery, we started to see what the maroons, or in Spanish, we call it cimarrones, that are those slaves that run away, the runaways. And they created those settlements away from it. So in Spanish, it's cimarrones. Some people call it runaways, maroons. So going now to Haiti, in 1697, Haiti came under the French colonial rules. We have the Haitian Revolution from 1791 to 1804. And this is very, very important information for us to understand. And we have three people that were very important. The first was a General Toussaint Louverture. Second, we have Jean Dessalines, and those who were general. But we have Duty Bookman. Duty Bookman was from Jamaica. He was brought to Haiti as a punishment. So he was brought to Haiti, but he was very important, not in the sense as the general, but he was the one that created that voodoo ceremony, religious, spiritual ceremony that started the whole Haitian revolution. One of the words he has is here. I have this from some of the sources. He said, "God, who has created the shining sun above, is watching us and sees the misdeed of the whites. The God of the whites demand crime. Our God, who is so good, ordered us to take vengeance." This is a quote he said after this, just a week after the pivotal meeting of voodoo ceremony, the Haitian Revolution began. So we can see why this revolution was so effective, because they felt that literally God, it was more of a spiritual revolution. God was with them. We all know the British army was so powerful at that time, one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful. How slaves with nothing, literally, just maybe woods, all that stuff, they could, how they say this, beat the British Empire. In 1822, slavery was abolished in Dominican Republic that was under the Spanish control. And here we go to a very important topic that we must understand in order for us to understand the relationship between Dominican Republic and Haiti. For those of you that don't know right now, there is hard relationship between these two countries, even though they are in the same place. And this is the reason why Haitian President Jean-Pierre invaded Santo Domingo for the third time with the intention of unifying the island. The subsequent 22-year occupy will result not only in the economic and cultural deterioration of Santo Domingo, but also in a resentment of Haiti by the Dominicans. So they try to erase all the culture in Dominican Republic, the Haiti Empire. So we have that right there. I need you guys to remember that. So we're already seeing how the Dominican Republic, how would you feel if that happened to you? If right now someone comes to try to take your culture away. Moving on, the Dominican Republic Independence War gave the Dominican Republic autonomy from Haiti in February 27, 1844. These are some of the leaders that were in the front of the line from this revolution and this movement. And this is another important event that when the U.S. went into Dominican Republic, triggered by concern about possible German use of the Dominican Republic as a base for attack the U.S. during World War I, the U.S. government began an occupation and administration of the country in 1916, which would last until 1924. And what happened is that the United States brought Haitian labor to work on the field for extreme low wage. So the Dominican Republic population started seeing this new way of slavery, and they correlated that low wage with this new era slavery with the color of the skin of the people. This is very important because this situation and the one that we just talked about, having been 22 years under the Haitian dictatorship, we can say control, where they wanted to erase their culture, brings us to this moment right here where the President Trujillo in 1937, army came from the different areas of the country, carried a massacre of Haitian in the Persian massacre. That was in a place that were the divide Dominican Republic and Haiti, and they killed almost 12,000 Haitians. That was a massacre, and you see here is not that long ago. So we introduce an interesting topic that you will see around when it comes to all the Latin America, Hispanic, and Afro diaspora is the colorism. But in Dominican Republic, if you go there, people will say they're Dominican, they're not black. A lot of people will say that. That is getting better with education and time, but people will say, no, I'm not black, or I'm not, you know, they don't want anything to do with the dark skin side. We can see why. And this is something I like to tell people that we got to see the story behind it. Why they feel like that? Why they don't want to associate with dark skin, and they are lighter, and they feel that because of that they are, you know, better. And this is what colorism is. Colorism is the prejudice of discrimination or discrimination against people based upon their relative lightness or darkness of their skin. This is a very interesting topic, colorism. After this presentation, we can talk a little bit about it. I know a lot of us has had this experience. I have this experience in Puerto Rico. This is everywhere. Let's go to Afro-Brazil. It's very important. Why? First of all, I wanted to share this information just for you to know how does the only place in South America who doesn't speak Spanish is Brazil. For me, that was very interesting. So this was a treaty they did with the Spanish, with the Pope, between the Spanish crown, the Portuguese crown. They just divided the globe in half. Everything to the right or to the east was gonna be part of under Portugal control, and anything to the left or to the west was gonna be under Spanish control. That easy, just like the world was under power. But anyways, that's how Brazil is the only place you will find in South America that will be talking another language. In their case, it's gonna be Portuguese. Why Brazil? Well, Brazil, out of 4.8 million of African slaves that came to America, 1.5 came to Brazil. So Brazil has almost 75 million African descendants living there right now. And it was the last country to abolish slavery. So that's a big deal. When we talk about African diaspora, if we want to understand, know more about the African history in the world outside Africa, Brazil is the place to go. Brazil had the hardest slavery. Why? Because of what we talk about. Because of this, they had Portugal had all the control of all the port of slaves in Africa. So it was easier for them and cheaper to bring slaves. So it was a thing like, okay, if they die, whatever happened, don't worry, there will be another 100 coming next month. So that's why it was very, very hard for them, slavery in Brazil at that time. I want you guys to research a little bit of the Ganga Zumba history. He was a prince in Congo, obviously got caught, brought to Brazil, and he was a runaway, maroon, cimarron, how you want to call it, and he created quilombos or palenques. This is the place where the runaways, when they settled, they would call that quilombo or palenque. And he created like a village, like he became like literally like a king that he was supposed to be back home. He was brought to America. So he was still a king, but here in the New World. Racial mixing in Brazil and in all the Spanish and Portugal colonies started from the beginning. Why? We're gonna talk about that later. But this is a story, if you want to understand more about racial mixing in Brazil, about Chica da Silva and João Fernandes. João Fernandes was a mine owner, a man with a lot of money, and he married this Chica da Silva. She was an African. Obviously, he bought her liberty. They had 13 children. When he died, she became the richest female in Brazil in that time. So here we can see how racial mixing was something that started from the beginning in all the Spanish and Portugal's colonies. By the way, there was a novel they created. This is the picture in Brazil. So it was very famous. Like everyone saw it. So you can search this in YouTube. You will see some. Blanqueamiento or whitening. There were some effort around almost all the Caribbean, Central America, South America, of an effort of making the population whiter and whiter with time. For example, in Brazil, 4 million Europeans were brought in 1889 and 1914. This, obviously, you can see here, it made a change in the census of how the Brazilians saw themselves. But Salvador Bahia, if you are going to Brazil and you want to know more about the Black history in Brazil, Salvador Bahia is the darkest place in Brazil. At the same time, is one, if not the poorest place. Moving on to Cuba. For those of you that don't know where Cuba is, right here. Columbus in 1492 brought a big influx of slaves to Cuba after the Haitian Revolution. You gotta understand that Haiti was the main sugar export of the world at that before the revolution. After the revolution, the British put a block of that service, so they needed another place to get that sugar from. So that's where here's where Cuba came, and Puerto Rico came later. In 1825, all Spanish colonies got their independence except Puerto Rico and Cuba. There was the first war of independence. It lasted 10 years, and slaves were a big part of the militia. This is very important. Black and white fought together for the liberation of Cuba from Spain. So we can see here that, yes, blacks were slaves in this time, obviously, but at the same time, they were part of, they became part of the militia. So, and there was no division on that militia, if you were white or black. They fought together to get that liberation. So you can see that a sense of pride that was building in these people right here. It doesn't matter if you were black or white or a mix, obviously mixture. You were not fighting for color, but you were fighting for the independence of your country. So you can see how it shifts a little bit about you being black or white, and it's more about you being Cuban. And that happens in Puerto Rico, this happens everywhere. But this is a very important something that we gotta distinguish, okay? April 21 in 1898, the location was the US intervention, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Philippines. The result of this was the Treaty of Paris, were negotiated in turn in favor of the US, where the US got control of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, Philippines. Just a quick, a side note, Philippines got their independence later on. Obviously, we know Cuba did too, but Puerto Rico and Guam still colonies of the United States in 2020. And guess what happened? When the United States took control, brought back discrimination policies even in the army. So we talk about they were fighting together in the same, no division. So creating whites and black groups. So they brought to Cuba division once again. By Cuban elites, banned their culture. So no black music, no black religion, no black instrument, everything was banned. Another whitening effort in 1901, $1 million effort to bring 600,000 Europeans for 20 years. In 1940, racial discrimination was criminalized, And this is a quote I got from all the information I was reading. Institutional racism ended, both heart and mind didn't. It's a very, very important quote that we see all around the world. Afro-Peru is one of the places with more African descendants besides Cuba, Brazil, Peru, and Colombia are the places with more African descendants. We have a little bit about here, around 3 million African descendants in Peru. That is 10% of the population. This is interesting because in 1500 to the mid 1800s, thousands of slaves were brought to the region of Callao, just outside Lima. Work constructions, building, road, domestic like cooking, cleaning, rural areas, cotton, and vignettes. Interesting. Why? Because they were not only slaves that were going to work on the field, but from the beginning, they worked on other jobs like buildings, road, domestic, like cooking from the beginning, cleaning, rural areas. So we see a different kind of thing going on here. Here, this picture. By the way, the painter of this, I didn't found his name, but he was a black liberto, was free. And he used to just sit on street and make this painting. And this have brought a lot of information to scholars today, because you can see here different ways. Here in the picture above, you can see that this black female, she's cooking here, maybe on the street, selling food. Here you can see how we have black people as being in the militia. So it brings a lot of information about how was slavery at that time. Slavery was abolished in two stages. In 1821, first was freedom of the womb. Obviously, the son or daughter will be free. And then in 1854, slavery was fully abolished in Peru. You want to research more about Afro-Peruvian history, you can search Victoria and Nicodemus Santa Cruz. They are two brothers that have fought hard, used to obviously fought very hard for the civil rights of Afro-Peruvian in Peru. And they got inspired, obviously, by the African-American civil rights movement. Another one will be the Biombrocio family. There are 15 brothers and sisters, and they are very important when it comes to the culture. So when it comes to music, they have stayed with that root, and they perform all around the world. You can look them in YouTube. It's a great way to see what kind of music they like to perform. And I love her music. One of my favorite is Susana Baca, 2 times Latin Grammy Award, Minister of the Culture, first Afro-Peruvian government minister. Mexico. When we think about Mexico, little people, not that much people think about African people in Mexico. We have when we think about Mexico, the picture that comes to our mind is not a person with dark skin complex, even though Mexicans have a dark skin complex, but maybe not that much. So only 1% of Mexican are considered Afro-descendant. In 2015 was the first time Afro-descendant was added to the census. So literally 5 years ago. So this is a big deal, because we need to know, we know that census is not just to know about how much people we have, all that stuff, but social services and social services that are created by the government need to have the information of people, where they are and what condition are they living, so that they can create services for them and different programs. So if you are invisible and you don't exist, it's very difficult to create programs to help you out. This is the first time they just added African descendant on 2015. So now they're starting to think about, okay, so we have this population that we need to accommodate, obviously, and help them out. From 1580 to 1650, 1,500 African slaves were brought. In the early 1600s, Mexico had the largest population of slaves in America. Literally, the largest population. interracial marriage from the beginning, how we already said. We're gonna talk about that in a few minutes, why. And the work, how I said, agriculture, mine, sugar plantation. Gaspar Yanga, as another hero that you guys can research, he settled a palenque of Maroons in 1570, what's the first free town in the New World. Very important. If you go here to this place, this is the statue is there. People know their story, and it's very interesting. It's Yanga, Gaspar Yanga. The place is called like him. Vicente Guerrero was in the war, fought in the War of Independence. Only Afro-descendant president from the 1st to the 17th, from 1st of April to 17th of December of 1829. And he was there. There is a state of Mexico after his name, Guerrero. So you go to Mexico, there is a place with his name, Guerrero. And it's very interesting because he was president of Mexico on 1829. So you can see how in 1829, Mexico had the first Afro-descendant president. And we in the United States had it, where 2012 was Barack. 12 to, yes, that's it. When I heard that, I'm like, whoa, they were ahead of us. This is the effort they are working on right now at this moment in Mexico since 2015 to make more visible the African heritage of Mexico and to increase the awareness of African Mexican so that they can start obviously creating more programs to help them out, because how everywhere in the world, in Mexico, that place where they are located, the most African descendants are located, is one of the poorest places of Mexico. Last but not least, my beautiful country, Puerto Rico, is right here for those that don't know where it is. The history of Puerto Rico is a little different because it began from the beginning with Liberto, who accompanied the Spanish conquistador in the invasion of the island. The Spaniards enslaved the Taínos, that were the original indigenous people that were here, many who died as a result of the infectious disease and the Spanish oppressive colonized effort. So from the beginning, the ships came free Africans in the ship. So this is very important. When Ponce de Leon and the Spaniards arrived to the island of Boriquén, that was the name of Puerto Rico back then, they were greeted by Cacique Guaybana, the supreme leader of the peaceful Taíno tribes on the island. And this, look at this. Juan Garrido was the first free black man who set foot on the island. He was a conquistador who was part of Juan Ponce de Leon entourage. So you see this picture right here on top. It's not that clear, but you see here, it's a black man right here. That is Juan Garrido, Ponce de Leon, how we can see here at Guaybana. So when he came here, he brought free slave and even a black conquistador. Oh, interesting. Garrido was born in West Africa coast, the son of an African king. In 1508, he joined the Ponce de Leon to explore Puerto Rico and prospect for gold. 1511, he fought under Ponce de Leon to repress the Caribe and the Taíno. And he joined Hernán Cortés too in the Spanish conquest of Mexico. And he wasn't the only one. Couldn't find a picture of him, of Pedro Mejias, but Pedro Mejias was another free black man who accompanied Ponce de Leon. He married a Taíno female chief, Cacica, by the name Luisa. Luisa was baptized as Catholic so that she could marry Mejias. She was given the Christian name of Luisa. So here we see two black men, African, who were a big part of the colonization process in Puerto Rico and were not slaves. Well, I want to point something here. Luisa was baptized as Catholic. And this is a very important line right there. I'm gonna talk to you about later about this line right here, but just have that in mind. Racial mixing in Puerto Rico was from the beginning, how I said, in the mid 19th century, there was an whitening effort where they brought a lot of Europeans from different parts of Europe. And this book right here talks a lot about it. It's the País de Cuatro Pisos, four floor country, I would say. It's a great book. It talks about that part when it comes to the whitening on the whitening effort in Puerto Rico by bringing Europeans, and not only bringing Europeans, but they were giving free land. Ooh, that was interesting. It's very interesting. We can see here how racial mixing was from the beginning a thing. But even though there was a thing from the beginning, obviously we know that we have people that fall in love, but we know that there were people that were, doing their thing without any feelings. So, but they needed to separate people depending of who their parents were. So they created these castas where if you were son of a slave with a white, you have this name. But if you were son of even though you're black, but you were free with a white, this name, Taino with white, Taino with all this stuff. They started dividing people into these different, I would say, races, or I don't know what the best topic or the name to call this. It makes no sense to me. But the thing is that this brought separation and what we already talked about, colorism. So this is very important to research and go a little deeper on it. What are the casa and the effect that had on people? Because now you and me are not the same, because your mom is white and your dad is Taino and my mom is white, my dad is African. We are not the same. I'm better than you because you have more African, I have more Taino. And this whole construct started building up from that time. So all the situation we have today, we need to go back and understand, like, we're doing better. Like, it needs to be better, but we're doing better. And it will take time because this is ingrained on who we are. So before going there, we can see how in all these places, one topic, well, a lot of topic, but one topic is very important, and it's the racial mixing from the beginning. So what is it about the Spanish and Portugal colonial system that make them more prone to get into this interracial mixing? How I say, sometimes, a lot of time, was about love. Sometimes it was not. But it was easier for them to do so. And this is the reason why. We got to understand the Moorish Empire. Spanish and Portugal was under Moorish dominance for 800 years. So Spain, Spanish, and Portugal were used to live around dark-skinned people, different complexion. Some of those Moorish Empire were like really dark, like African. All of them were African, but really dark. Others were not that dark, but they were already used to living around black people and getting in interracial relationship already back in Spain. So this is very important. So because the way they when it comes to this colonial thing, yes, race was something important, but it wasn't number one. Number one was, and that's what I told you guys to remember, that was the expansion of Christianity. That is why the first thing they do when they got a slave was to baptize them. So that is very, very important for us to understand. Commonality, whitening effort around the Caribbean, Central America, South America, they were all whitening effort, trying to make the race of the population better. Mix it from the beginning, we already talked about it. The effort to silence the topic. This is very, very important. These topics are not talked a lot in all the Central America, South American, Caribbean. They did a great job of making Black and African descendant people feel that there is nothing going on. they did a great job from the beginning. Maybe because, this is my opinion, maybe the way slavery wasn't maybe that hard or bad in I don't know how slavery cannot be that bad, but bad in those places, and they started giving them this, maybe incorporating them on their daily life. Yes, you can do this, you can do that, and that's that. I think that thing with the other aspect of the fight they had together for the independence. So now it's not about white or black, it's about Cuba, or it's about Puerto Rico, or it's about, it's more about where we were born. All this thing going on make black people in these places had no big civil rights movement. Let me say that again. There is no big civil rights movement anywhere in the New World, but in the United States. Poverty, all these places, the poorest places you will find is the place where most of the black people are. So we can see poverty is still is still there today. Colorism, in all these countries, we can see colorism. And racism versus discrimination. I think Andrea can speak a little bit more about this. But in my experience, my thought, I can say that, for example, I can talk about Puerto Rico, 27 years living there. I won't say that I have felt a lot of racism in Puerto Rico, but racism, I think when I think about racism, it's more like from the governmental level, I haven't heard, maybe there is, but it's not a big thing about people killing someone because he's black, or police, or all this stuff that we see here. But there's still discrimination. We see about people with no job, with health, people poorest places when it comes to having no healthcare system, maybe the way people want to be as less black and more white. That kind of discrimination obviously is really big in Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and all these places. Last but not least, I want to show you guys some picture about different places here. We can see Brazil, so you can see all the complexion, skin, hair, Cuba, Brazil, Panama, Venezuela, Belize, Antigua, Barbuda, Haiti, Montserrat, Jamaica, El Salvador, Costa Rica, black people, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Colombia, Barbados, Dominican Republic, we will talk about it, Ecuador, Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Trinidad, Puerto Rico. You can see everywhere. Everywhere there is black people, maybe different complexion, maybe different skin color tones, but there is African descendants, all the Caribbean and all Central and South America too. Some of the resources, there's a lot of resources. I have a lot of books here. I don't want to show you guys, but I think you want to start searching more about this topic. First step, I would say just watch the PBS Black in Latin American series that is on YouTube. I think it's 8 chapters, 8 episodes. Is all this information that I just shared with you, I got from there. I have seen that series like maybe 4 times. It's got Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Mexico, Peru. I think they go even to Argentina. There's even African descent. It's everywhere. But it's only 8 chapters, I think it is. It's very good. You will love it. And there is a video, one video. It's Afro-Latinos with this heart right here. I don't know why, but they use the heart as a topic of a video. It's another great video, 45 minutes. Talks a lot about that topics. That's all I have for you guys. Now it's gonna be open floor. Maybe share our experience, share something that you wanna, keep talking about. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you guys. How I said, this is a topic that I have very close to my heart. And yes, let's move on.
Thank you, Abel. Let me just stop the recording very quick.